Quick disclaimer, information in this podcast is for general informational purposes only and is not intended to be treated as medical advice. Always consult with your healthcare team before making changes to your diet, lifestyle, supplementation, or medication.
It all started with a problem that simply couldn't be ignored. Led to the development of an online platform to treat type 2 diabetes and pre-diabetes naturally and effectively, years of study and world-leading research, and continues on today.
Welcome to Type 2 Diabetes Talk, the place where we chat about what really works to treat type 2 diabetes and prediabetes naturally with nutrition and lifestyle. If you're looking to optimize blood sugar and A1C, lose weight, reduce medications, and improve your overall health, this is the place to be. Now, here's your host, Type 2 Diabetes Nutrition Specialist, Dr. Jedha.
Hello, wonderful people. Dr. Jedha here, and thanks for joining me today. Now, you might have heard me mention the T2Diet program before, or maybe you've even been part of it. But what you might not know is just how much science, sweat, and soul went into creating and validating it. So today, we're revisiting the gold standard research behind the program, behind everything we do at DMP. A journey that's taken years of work, led to global publication, and most importantly, helped real people achieve real results. This episode isn't just about what the research showed, it's about why it still matters today and what it means for you if you're navigating life with type 2 diabetes or pre-diabetes. Before we get down to sharing this story, I wanted to give a shout out to Marge, Colleen, and Carol for leaving 5-star ratings and reviews for the podcast on our website. And especially to Marge, who left a review a while ago and then took the effort to leave me a voice message of thanks recently. Thanks so much, Marge. I really appreciate that you're getting a lot out of the podcast and took the time to leave me that special message. So where to start? People often ask me how I ended up doing a PhD in nutrition for type 2 diabetes, especially focused on digital health. And honestly, it all started with a problem I just couldn't ignore. About 15 years ago, I was working with clients on weight loss and their nutrition, and many of them also had type 2 diabetes or pre-diabetes, struggling with their blood sugar. And when I went looking for resources to help guide them, I found almost nothing of value. Just the same recycled advice over and over again. Eat less fat, count your calories, follow the food pyramid. Not only was it outdated then, but it was also confusing and often completely wrong. And clearly, none of it was helping them. I remember thinking, if I had diabetes, I'd be completely lost. And that moment changed everything for me. I knew I had to dig deeper and find better answers, not just for my clients, but for everyone out there trying to manage their blood sugar. And I wanted to change that. I wanted to give people real answers backed by science that actually worked in real life. So I went back to university and I got serious about research. First a master's degree, then eventually a PhD. And along the way, I wasn't just collecting credentials, I was searching for truth. I wanted to understand how food could be used as treatment. I've never been one to default to taking medications, and while meds can be helpful at times, I know from the research I've conducted over the years that medications are overprescribed. The medical system is dominated by the enormous multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical industry. My mission was to find alternatives. After all, the medical care guidelines have promoted diet and lifestyle as essential for everyone with diabetes and more effective than medications, as we've seen presented in many research studies. So throughout my degrees and research, I wanted to explore how effective it could be and how natural strategies, how nutrition could really help. Not in theory, but in real life, something people could actually use. That's what eventually led me to create Diabetes Meal Plans, or DMP, which is our home online, And when I started DMP, it was a small website sharing practical tips and evidence-based nutrition strategies that I was learning. But it grew fast because I was sharing stuff people didn't know and the approach worked. We launched the meal planning service, which was one of the first features of our membership, and we were one of the first sites online to offer healthy diabetes meal plans specifically dedicated to people with pre- and T2 diabetes. People were lowering their A1C, losing weight, feeling better, and finally getting off the roller coaster of trial and error. We continued to extend our service beyond the meal plans to offer weekly diabetes education and develop a huge library of resources to answer member questions, detailed food guides on the most important areas of focus, cooking videos for those new to healthy eating, health maps with step-by-step guidelines on how to lower cholesterol or fasting blood sugar, for example, masterclasses on aspects of diabetes health and nutrition, and we run interactive programs for members throughout the year. We've continued to develop in response to our member needs, and it's developed into a very comprehensive online nutrition education and support service with resources and support to help people at every level. And the more people we help, the clearer it became. Nutrition is the key to improving type 2 diabetes and pre-diabetes. And yet it's the part that most people are often given the least support for. The more success stories I saw, the more determined I became to prove it, not just anecdotally, but scientifically, because when it comes to managing diabetes, food is the most powerful tool we have. And when you're given the right knowledge and support, it can truly change your life. So that gap between what we know can help and what people are actually being offered, usually no education or support other than prescribing medication, that's what drove me into research in the first place. Not to just collect letters after my name, but to prove what I already knew deep down, that food is the most powerful treatment tool we have, and the right kind of support can change lives. When I began my PhD in 2019, I was surprised and honestly a little shocked by how little research had been done on digital nutrition programs for type 2 diabetes. We're talking about one of the most common chronic conditions in the world, and yet at the time, there was barely any evidence on how online nutrition support could help. That's a hard thing to believe, right? Especially when there are so many websites and so many things out there on the Wild West Web. But again, I guess it's not so hard to believe when the predominant message people receive is just to take meds. And not surprisingly, the majority of clinical research in diabetes is conducted by pharmaceutical companies regarding medication. So one of the first things I did was conduct a systematic review, and this is where you look at all the randomised control trials, or RCTs, that have been done on a specific topic. RCTs are considered the gold standard in research because they're designed to clearly show what works and what doesn't. And when I looked at all the online programs that included a diet component for type 2 diabetes, I found just 16 studies. So these weren't primarily just nutrition studies or diet studies. A lot of them were lifestyle studies as well, but these programs, these 16 studies, had included a diet component. But out of those 16, only 2 had even measured what people were actually eating or how their diet had changed. Only 2. So diet was never really a major focus in any of the online programs that had been through clinical trials before. And that was a turning point for me. I already knew food mattered, but now I could see that we had almost no solid evidence on how digital programs could deliver dietary support effectively, and that gap needed to be filled. So I got to work developing something different, a fully structured online nutrition program designed specifically for people with type 2 diabetes, using a healthy low-carbohydrate nutrition approach. While there had been a couple of low-carb programs tested in single-arm studies, none had gone through a rigorous randomised control trial, and none had been co-designed with the people who would actually use it. That's where the T2Diet program really stood apart. It was built from the ground up by following a user-centred process. It's grounded in behavioural science. In fact, there are lots of intricate ways in which the program influences people's habits, mindset and actions positively through the behavioural elements that are embedded throughout the program. These are not things you can see, of course, but they are very impactful. And of course, the program was designed to be practical, flexible and supportive in real life. Point being, the program wasn't just thrown together. It went through several phases of development with our users giving input on what they thought would work best for them, careful thought and design to embed all those behavioural elements throughout the program, and a huge amount of research-based guidelines at every single step. After that, I moved into the clinical trial phase, a full randomised control trial testing whether the T2Diet program, delivered online, could actually improve clinical outcomes like A1C, weight and medication use. Randomised control trials are the gold standard in research for testing efficacy. That's why so many drug companies run these trials. But they're less popular in other research streams as they tend to be more costly and more difficult to organise and conduct. In the T2Diet Study randomised control trial, participants were split into the two groups. One group received the standard medical care, just going to your doctor for your regular health checks, and the other group received standard care plus access to the T2Diet program. And the results were very clear. The group using the program significantly outperformed the standard care group. On average, they reduced their A1C by nearly 1%, though some people by as much as 3%. They lost 9.6 pounds on average, 4.36 kilos, and 87% reduced their diabetes medications, with 25% of people reducing their meds by at least 20%. And that's just in 16 weeks. Meanwhile, the standard care group barely moved the needle and actually increased medication use in that 16 weeks. By all measurements, I think that's pretty remarkable evidence that when given the right information and support, majority of people can reduce their medication usage in a short amount of time. And when left to manage their diabetes within the standard medical system, what do we see? An increase in medication usage in the same time frame. Not to mention the reduction in A1C levels. Wow, what a great outcome with an average reduction of nearly 1% in just 16 weeks. That is very impactful, protecting people from worsening health and diabetes complications. And some people lowered their A1C by up to 3% in that 16 weeks, and since then, we've seen many members do the same. So these outcomes, now clinically proven in a randomised control trial, the highest standard of research, were pretty great outcomes, I thought. And they just prove that what we do at DMP, the things that I share, etc., these things really work. So one of the most important parts of the research wasn't just the clinical results, it was understanding why the program worked. Most digital programs have pretty low engagement. People drop off, lose interest, or feel overwhelmed. But in the T2Diet study, 80% of people followed the program as expected, a much higher rate than we typically see in digital health. In fact, the level of engagement was huge, and that told me something was different here. To find out what that was, I went deeper. I looked at the data for how people use the site, yes, but more importantly, I interviewed participants after they finished the program. I wanted to understand what influenced their experience. Was it what they learned, how they felt, or the actions they took that really made the difference? And what came through was clear. People found the program useful, credible, and practical. They weren't just learning information, they were applying it, seeing results quickly, and feeling motivated to keep going. A big part of that came down to how the program was structured. It gave people step-by-step guidance, delivered in manageable chunks with consistent reinforcement and reminders. And that reduced the sense of overwhelm that so many people feel when trying to manage diabetes and understanding all of that information that there is to understand. And it wasn't about doing everything perfectly. It was about making small, meaningful changes that built momentum over time. And because the program was designed with input from real people with type 2 diabetes, it met them where they were. The tools, the resources, the language, it all felt relevant. And that sense of being understood and supported really helped people stay engaged and empowered. Another big driver of success was the rapid feedback people experienced from their own health. As blood sugar levels dropped, weight came off, and medications were reduced, people saw for themselves that what they were doing was working, and that's powerful. When you see results with your own eyes, it shifts your mindset from frustration and confusion to confidence and motivation. We see this shine through with our members all the time. And for the first time in research, we were able to document these behavioural insights in a digital dietary program for people with type 2 diabetes. That final phase of the study was published, and it added a whole new layer of understanding to what makes digital programs successful, not just clinically, but personally.
Are you ready to take charge of your diabetes health? Dr. Jedha's T2Diet program has been clinically proven in a randomized controlled trial to dramatically reduce A1C, weight, and medications in just 16 weeks. The T2Diet program will guide you step by step to discover an eating plan that feels natural and sustainable for you, and most importantly, works to get results. Learn more and join the program today at type2diabetestalk.com/programs.
With the number of websites you see and all the noise on social media, you might think, with how far we've come in digital technology, that programs like this, clinically proven programs, would now be common. But the truth is, they're still incredibly rare. Even today, most people with type 2 diabetes aren't being offered structured dietary support, let alone access to a clinically proven evidence-based nutrition program. And if you search online, what you'll mostly find are unproven plans, generalised advice, or flashy marketing from programs that have never been tested in a real scientific setting. They haven't been proven to work among real people with the highest level of evidence. That's why this research still matters, because it filled a critical gap that no one else had addressed. The T2Diet study wasn't just another diet trial. It was the first online diabetes nutrition program to document co-design with real people's input. It was the first to test a healthy, lower carbohydrate nutrition approach delivered completely online in a randomised control trial specifically for people with type 2 diabetes. It was the first to assess people's engagement and experience of the program. And it showed, without a doubt, that when you give people the right tools and support, they can improve their blood sugar, lose weight, and reduce their medications, all from home. So basically, my PhD progressed across 4 major phases of innovative research, with stages embedded within each of those phases. And after completing each phase, the process and outcomes were published in leading academic journals across the world, clearly demonstrating the personal and clinical benefits of digital nutrition programs and why proven programs are urgently needed. This is especially important as healthcare systems become more stretched and more people are looking for alternatives to clinic-based care. Most people don't want to take medications, or worse, more of them. People are not finding the support or the solutions they want and need. The demand for accessible, effective and affordable solutions has never been greater, and yet the options out there are still far behind what the evidence supports. So when you hear me talk about the T2Diet program and the research behind it, it's not to pat myself on the back, it's because people deserve better. You deserve better. You deserve to know that there is a proven way forward and that your health doesn't have to be left to guesswork or outdated advice, which unfortunately out there on the Wild West Web continues to happen. What's most rewarding to me is that the impact of this research hasn't stopped at the multiple publications. It's continuing every single day through the T2Diet program, now available to our members through our platform at DMP. Since the study finished, people going through the T2Diet program continue to experience real change. Our members continue to experience real change every single day. I'm talking about people of all ages, people in their 60s and 70s and even 80s, and people who've been living with type 2 diabetes for 20 plus years, who've been able to drop their A1C by 2, 3 or 4 percentage points and reduce or come off meds. People who've finally lost the weight they've struggled with for years. People who've said things like, "This is the first time I've actually understood what to eat and why it works." After completing the study, I also revised the program for people with pre-diabetes, and that's just been incredible to watch. Most of our members are reversing their pre-diabetes in 4 to 6 months back to normal glucose levels and sustaining that, which is just incredible. That's what keeps me going, knowing the science we developed isn't just sitting on a shelf somewhere like most research does. It's being used every single day to help people take back their health in a natural, sustainable way. And we continue to develop our resources and membership to offer high quality support that truly does change people's lives. As I look back on everything I've done, from that small fire that was lit in my belly 15 years ago to the creation of DMP and everything it took to complete the research, the years of study, the endless late nights, the burnout, the breakthroughs, I can honestly say it was all worth it. It is all worth it. Every single day I continue to research and explore the science to make it practical for you. Every day I continue to build on our members' resources, because at the end of the day, it's not about the publications or the data points. It's about the people whose lives have changed because of it, the people's lives we can change in the future. That's powerful and it's so rewarding. When you listen to this podcast, you might hear our advertisements about the membership or the T2Diet program or pre-diabetes program. When you visit our website, you might see posts about the programs. If you're one of our email subscribers, we promote our programs sometimes. But one thing you may have noticed is we don't promote pharmaceutical ads or any corporate sponsorship on any of our platforms or materials. Sure, we need to make money, and the small fees we charge for our programs and membership support our small team to continue to serve you. But we don't take bribes or align with companies that compromise our own integrity. Yes, we've had many offers which we've refused, because it's not just about money for us, it's about the real changes we make in people's lives. I've heard from so many members who've lowered their A1C, lost weight, come off medications and finally felt in control of their health, many for the first time in years. We've shared many of their stories on this podcast too. Wilma in episode 7 and 36, Dean in episode 31, a range of stories in episode 25, Lisa in episode 61, Paul in episode 72, Jeanette in episode 88, Susan in episode 92, and all the many testimonials on our website. They're all from real people. This isn't just theory, it's real, it's proven, and it works. Encouraging nutrition and natural treatment of pre- and T2 diabetes is something I'm very proud of doing, and it's something I will continue to encourage, promote, research, and support every single day of the week. I absolutely know from my years of education, from conducting my own clinical research, and from the many, many research studies I've read, and the experience of helping so many other members, people with type 2 diabetes and pre-diabetes, that medication is not the answer or solution. Nutrition is the primary natural treatment strategy for both pre- and T2 diabetes, period. So if today's episode sparks something in you, I encourage you to take the next step. Explore the T2 Diet program and start on a journey to change your life today. We can provide real support to do that. Or if you're already a member, revisit some of the materials with fresh eyes, knowing just how much evidence backs what you're using, just how much evidence is embedded throughout all of our resources, the guides, the health maps. All of it is backed by solid evidence on what actually works. Visit the monthly member check-ins to get extra help. Send in your quarterly health update when you get those emails, because this is your opportunity to get personal one-on-one feedback on something or to troubleshoot issues. Refresh your commitment to you, because we're certainly not going anywhere. We're here to support you. And I just want to say thank you to all of our members for choosing us to be there to support you, for putting your trust in us. We're truly grateful for that, for letting us be part of your life so we can help make a difference. And thank you to you too, our podcast listeners. If you haven't already, please take the time to head to our website at type2diabetestalk.com to support the podcast by leaving a 5-star rating and review, or on Apple or Spotify or wherever you listen. I'd really appreciate that. Thank you for taking the time to join me today and allowing me to share this part of the journey with you. I hope it's helped you feel more confident, more informed, and more empowered, because that's what this work and my mission has always been about. Until next time, take care of you. Dr. Jedha, over and out.
Thanks for tuning in to Type 2 Diabetes Talk. Please subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform. And for episode replays, episode notes, and more, visit type2diabetestalk.com. New episodes are available Tuesdays, 10 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time, or your time zone equivalent. Thanks again. We're truly grateful to be a part of your life and help make a real difference.